Hello, sir. How are you?
Good evening, Ron. How are you? It's been a couple of weeks. I hope everybody had an excellent Valentine's Day or Lupercalia, whichever you celebrate. It was definitely a little bit of a quiet time for me. I find that my cats tend not to buy me chocolates, so
Yeah, same way with here. I had nothing to do, nobody to buy flowers for, nobody bought me flowers. So it was basically hanging out with my two cats and watching the Hallmark Channel.
I guess we're the Lonely Hearts Club. But
That's absolutely the case.
hopefully that's not a permanent situation. So welcome everybody. Welcome back to Myths, Mysteries, and Monsters, or the other way around. As I said, every year, every weekend, I feel like I say it the opposite way. And we've got a really fun show tonight. This is a guest that Ron was able to contact for us, and I take it, Ron, that you have some experience with this gentleman.
Yeah, you know what? He's one of my favorite people. You guys as well too. But I will tell you, there's very few people in this field who are genuine people. And I know we've had discussions about this before. Somebody that you can go to and say, "I feel like I'm a friend with him." And the first time I ever spoke with our guest, it was like that. He is one of these people who is a true human being. He loves people, and he is trying to find the answers to the same kind of questions that we're asking without trying to make any kind of huge profit about it. So a special person in the paranormal field.
Very good. Well, I tell you what, without further ado, why don't we bring our guest in, and you can give him a little bit of an intro, and we will get this started. By the way, quick note is this is the second guest that we have had on the show ever, and so it's kind of a fun. It's a little bit of a benchmark. We're probably going to do a few more guests as we go forward, but only the second guest we've ever had. So I'd like to welcome Stephen Barcelo to the show.
Hello,
Oh,
Stephen.
thank you for having me in, and happy Valentine's Day.
Oh, look at him with the chocolate, rubbing it
That's
in.
so nice. Yes, so Stephen, you have the honor of being the first man and the second guest on our show.
Cool.
Yeah, how about that?
That's
Welcome aboard.
We'll send you some sort of plaque through the mail eventually. So, Stephen, I don't know exactly where to begin, but let me just put it this way. So, you have a museum
hmm
down in Littleton, North Carolina,
Right.
that is a repository for things that are cryptid and paranormal, correct?
Yep. A little bit of everything. UFOlogy, spook lights. We've been lucky enough to be featured on YouTube. I'm sorry, YouTube, Travel Channel, MTV, NPR, PBS, all the local stuff. And it's primarily the big thing that's kind of put us out there has been the Bigfoot sightings in the area. And I did not move down here for this. My intent was not to be come down to semi-retire and run a cryptozoology museum, but that's kind of what happened.
Right. So you said about going down there. So we need a little bit of background. You are not from the South, are you? You're a little bit
No,
north of the Mason Dixon.
you could hear from the accent.
That's right.
I'm about as Yankee as you get. I'm from Long Island, New York. I used to be a journalist for the New York Daily News. Actually, I started as a photojournalist and photojournalist videographer, and then with all the cutbacks, I was there for roughly 10 years, and eventually I was just doing everything, and I was good at it. I enjoyed it, but the business was dying, and so it was time for me to look for escape and get out, and that's how I somehow found Littleton. So.
Yes. Now, what exactly attracted you to Littleton?
Well, as silly as it sounds, it was not the paranormal or anything because I didn't know anything about it. I looked all over, and I was looking. I wanted like a big old church or a big old house, maybe a little bit of property because coming from Long Island, New York, we have postage stamp properties, ridiculous cost, taxes, and I had a little Cape house there. And don't get me wrong, I loved it, but it was just it's just out of control. And then and my house. You've been to it. Used to be the museum. Ended up with this big 3-story house in Littleton, which one of the things I liked about the town too, we're 378 feet above sea level. So after Hurricane Sandy, I was nowhere near the water. I have to deal with flooding. But I buy this house. It actually has an underground stream in the basement, an artesian well, hidden room on the second floor. The house, we don't even know the exact date. We know 1850s it existed. It was spun in 1895. It's a crazy old place, and I got it for 52,000. I mean, literally. I mean, it's just ridiculously cheap. So I just paid cash for it, bought it, still had the house in New York. I was still working for the New York Daily News, and we were just going back and forth. And then we started had the contractors I hired to work in the house were having paranormal activity. I mean, these guys, they didn't even want to tell me. They're kind of embarrassed, but seeing shadow people, their tools are getting moved, they're hearing noises and voices. At one point, they're down in the basement working, and they're hearing hard-soled footsteps. And it's not like furniture being moved. And literally, there's no furniture in the house. I had a blow-up mattress and like camping stuff. I had to move down at that point. And so they went outside to see like if the Barcelos came down from New York. No cars are there. They open up the first floor. Nothing's there. The place is dark. Done for the day. And I got that story like almost like 2 years, probably a little bit more than that after I moved down from the guy that owns the hardware store. So, but it's just kind of crazy. But it's a cool town. I love the town. It's very historic, and that's kind of how it all started. And then I can get into the politics side if you want me to go down that road. After doing the paranormal stuff and kind of doing ghost tours, and just kind of, I'm literally walking people on up and down Mosby Avenue, not doing anything too nutty. Some of the town commissioners are not too happy with me, and so at that point, the Bigfoot stories started coming in. So I'm a journalist, so I'm interviewing people and talking to them. I'm going, this is crazy, this is amazing, and that's when they really got upset with me. And they said, you're making us look stupid, talking about Bigfoot and all this other stuff. I said, I'm not the one that said I saw Bigfoot. These people are coming in. Some of these stories are recent, some of them, 30, 40 years old. And so at that point, I don't know if I have my sign. I can give you a picture of my sign. I ended up running for office. I got aggravated. My Bigfoot sign, my political sign says, Bigfoot says, there you go. Run or vote for Steve Barcelo. When I get elected, they actually vote me in. So they voted in the Yankee that runs the Bigfoot Museum. And actually, I ended up running twice. And I just resigned about, I guess, almost 4 months ago. Probably just about. And because I need to work on the new museum and stuff. But I was actually the mayor for a while, and I was the mayor pro tem. The mayor stepped down, so I was a commissioner and the mayor for, I guess I was the mayor for about 6 months.
Now, this is a tiny little town as well. I mean, Littleton seems like kind of a one-horse town. You got, what, 650, 700 people?
We're less than that now. It's an elderly community. We've lost quite a few, unfortunately. But right now, the town's turned around. We've had, back in the day here, they fought anything. They fought me. They didn't want to change. And we're lucky we have the Fitz Foundation came in. And he's tried to help before. He's from here originally, deep pockets, done very well. He's got that Midas touch. And we've got now a bistro in. We got a wine shop. We got a brewery coming in. The coffee shop's open. He gave us a school. I mean, huge, huge stuff. And this wouldn't have happened with the previous people that were in here. They fought everything. At one point, Food Lion wanted to come down. We have a Piggly Wiggly in town. I don't know if you guys are familiar with a Piggly Wiggly. And they fought that. They didn't want that because they were afraid it would affect the Food Lion. That would have brought, we have Lake Gaston right above us, literally like 7-8 miles. That would have brought people from the lake into the town. The town was known for some crime. So we end up cleaning that up, getting things going. I mean, the town's booming. I mean, during COVID, this town, the last 5 years, it's kicked ass. I mean, it's amazing. And it's still going forward. So and I can pat myself what it reminds a little bit. I mean, like once again, I was the pilot light,
Yeah, absolutely. It reminds me very much of a New England town because you have a lot of mom and pop businesses there.
Yep.
With, if you wanted to walk down the street, you can see people buying their wares right there like it used to be. It's like the quintessential American town. But what I found so fascinating about my trip to Littleton is that whatever you think of a small town in the South, you wouldn't think that it's quite as progressive as Littleton appears to be. It seems that it was very welcoming, and indeed, you might have some people that are a little apprehensive about change, but I think in the end, everybody is open about the idea of reinventing yourself there.
Yeah, I think one of the things that was good in this town, right across from you, we did the event, Lakeland Theater, which is you're gonna love. It's totally renovated, and from the Fitz Foundation, thank God. And but basically, the fact that we had a theater in town brought the artsy community in, and I think that's one of the things that helped this town out. It brought in, that crowd is different than your typical small town crowd, which is just going to worry about just the hunting and just all the other stuff. It brought in a slightly different bunch of people. Maybe I don't want to insult it, but maybe a little highbrow, and that helped. But it was dying. I mean, the theater was in bad shape. They were out of money. And then when Ed and Deb, his wife, came in, the Fitz, and he actually played basketball in the gymnasium. And the old Lakeland Theater is, which is Lakeland Cultural Arts Center now, was the high school he went to. So he wanted to save it. And it was like, I mean, the stars just aligned. It was like I was in a perfect place to run for office. We had to do a lot of cleanup, personnel and stuff, which I won't go into, and. But basically, things aligned. He was able to come in. He's tried to help before, and he did help in small amounts, but people didn't want help. He didn't want change, and we're able to move forward. And now the town's really boomed, and that's one of the reasons I was able to survive as my little museum from the house. Now to buy, or I'm in the process of buying this, I should say, the new building that we're in, which we went from 250 square feet in the front of the house. The house is much bigger. That's all the wife would let me use. And, to the new museum, which is literally 3,700 square feet. We have parking across the way. We're still working on the place. We got a lot to do, but it's a crazy place. And this place was everything. It's not as old as the house. It doesn't have that kind of history, but it was a church. It was a bar. It was a laundromat. It was an old store at one time. It was a car dealership, a mattress store. I mean, you name it. It's been through here.
So. Wow, yeah. But there was history to that town, though, correct? I mean, at one time, what was it? Because I remember you gave me a tour at one time. What was its claim to fame?
Well, actually, where my house is, the original house, is the old Stagecoach Road. And down the road from us is Persons Ordinary. That was licensed by King George II, 1739. And that was only men could stay there. And so that's the Halifax Resolve, which is part of the original Constitution for the United States, was written there. And when the English came in, they actually moved it up that road, which is 1001, and brought it to, I'm going to forget the name of the town. I always do this. My senior moment here. Anyway, moved it through to Hillsborough, and to keep it away from the English. So there's a lot of crazy history in this town. So when I originally started hearing the paranormal stories, I was mixing the history in. We had people in town that grew up there and had no idea of the history of Persons Ordinary.
It's pretty common. That I think a lot of these small towns have fantastic history, especially the ones that date back to early European settlement here. And it is true that a lot of your average people just don't know too much of the depth of the history. They may know the highlights, but don't usually know too much of it. Now, one of our viewers a moment ago, Mary Beth, had sort of read my mind, and she was saying that a lot of these small towns, that have the potential to survive on tourism, don't manage to do it because they're so resistant to change. They're resistant to anything that they feel is gonna either bring in the wrong crowd or bring in too many people. They don't want out of towners in. People want everything to stay frozen in place and to stay the same, and that's certainly rarely successful. But I wonder, how did you sort of fight back or combat the sort of resistance to bringing in something as a little on the outre side as a paranormal and cryptozoological museum?
Basically, my ability was being a journalist. My job was to sell newspapers, and you can see a lot of the cover stuff I have in here. I mean, Madonna, major, A-listers. And I was lucky. I worked a major area. I worked, not just New York. I worked Long Island, so I was dealing with Hampton and serial killing, you name it, all kinds of stuff. The mob, and I was I was very fair to everybody. I never burnt anybody. You don't burn your bridges, And my main competitor was the New York Post, and where they tended to do that. The story came first, worrying about what you're going to get, next season or what happened, and I didn't do that. I would do what I had to do, and that's why I would be. I had people get pissed at me and say, "Well, they just give you the story." I said, "Well, yeah, because they know I'll treat them properly. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to make shit up." But anyway. So I had that ability. I kind of knew just basic marketing of how to sell things and how to sell a newspaper. I came down here. I saw this town had potential. I mean, one of the things I first came down and said, I was talking to some of the commissioners at the time, and there's some buildings in town. It's gorgeous, gorgeous stuff. And now they're finally being used. I said, you guys need a pub. You need like a good old Irish pub or something, some like, basic sandwiches, stuff like that. When I sell the house in New York, oh, no, you can't do that. And I got this really negative attitude. I was like, well, who the hell you tell me what not to do? I mean, it's like, but that's the way it was. And so basically I did my silly little thing doing ghost tours, and they started to shut me down. Like I said, I ran for office, and, and it took a good year just for them to understand me. I mean, I was the outsider. They were not thrilled that I got elected in, but we had, I won't go into the politics of employee stuff, but we had to clean house. I mean, we had to get rid of people. I mean, people had to get fired, and it wasn't easy.
I just noticed another one of our viewers, Adam, chimed in and mentioned Piggly Wiggly, and you asked us earlier if we were familiar with it. And of course, up here in the Northeast, we don't have Piggly Wiggly, but I would imagine that anybody interested in this field, in this sort of general genre, has got to be familiar with Piggly Wiggly, whether they realize it or not, because it plays actually such an important role in the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
I didn't even realize that.
If you ever go back and watch Close Encounters of the Third Kind, when they're setting up their sort of top secret base in in Wyoming by Devil's Tower, they have fleets of trucks bringing in all their equipment, but they're all Piggly Wiggly trucks, and that was the first time I'd ever heard of it. So a little bit of irony in there. So,
Piggly Wiggly's known for being the first. Before supermarkets, back in the day, you used to go into a supermarket.
Yeah.
You used to go into a store and you give him a list of your stuff, and you stand there and he'd pick the stuff off the shelves, put it in a box, and that was the first store you could actually walk down shelves and pick the stuff for yourself. And I kind of joke, I mean, hey, this is kind of cruel. They never seem to move much past that. I mean, I first came down here, I was looking for lasagna noodles. And I was going up and down. I couldn't find them. And eventually I found them in the Spanish section. Oh, and it was covered with dust. It was like kind of funny.
Oh, that's awesome.
It is. It's what we have in town. And they've actually, I got to say, since I've been here, they've, because of the improvements in the town, they've had to step up their game. But, we need Lidls or Aldi's in town. I've been fighting for that. I'm out of office now, so I'll just.
Yeah. So explain the arc then from being a writer for a newspaper to the paranormal. Now, were you always interested in the paranormal, or was this something that was almost thrust upon you?
No, I was into the paranormal for quite a while. I got into it late in life. I used to travel. I used to work at Brookhaven National Laboratory, the U.S. Department of Energy. And I was I was the blue collar. I was a water treatment plant. I had a really good title, but it didn't mean much. Water treatment plant operating engineer. We were the water plant guys, but we did do pump and treats for the tritium leakage from the reactors. And I used to be part of the old Manhattan Project and stuff. Albert Einstein used to go out there way back in the day. Another place with really cool history. But back then, it was before, you got to remember, before the internet was really a big thing. Shareware. I'm going to really show my age here. So I used to travel and make discs and sell shareware. And I used to drag my daughter with me, my oldest daughter, Holly, who you met Holly. And she was like 9 or 10 at the time. And I traveled down the East Coast on weekends and sell shareware to make a few. I was always a hustler. And sometimes we do pretty well. I mean, we'd sell a fair amount of stuff. So on the way back, I'd call my wife, say, call me in sick and tell, Holly can't go to school Monday. And we stopped at Gettysburg, and we got into the ghost hunting stuff. Actually, it's funny now. I do events, and I'm across. Sometimes my table's across from Mark Nesbitt, who's kind of the first guy that really turned me on to some of this stuff, and he gets a kick out of that. And but we would do the ghost tours, and eventually I bought some ghost hunting equipment. And next, I'm the idiot on Long Island who's doing the haunted lights house and stuff. So Halloween, they'd reach out to me. And that would be the guy they do an interview with for the ghost, the haunted lighthouse or whatever story it was for the Halloween radio spot. But I'm still working at a real job, and eventually I was always into photography, and that goes back to me being in junior high. Remember, I'm old. We're talking film, and even when I did 16 millimeter video, we're talking. These kids today. I have some in the museum that show them about the Patterson gimbal and stuff. I mean, you literally had to physically cut film and tape it. I mean, it's like editing like these kids are used to today. But I was always into that. But my photography teacher and I, of course, were young men. what do we want to do? We want to take pictures of, we want to be Playboy photographers. We want to, take pictures of pretty girls. And he basically told us, you're going to be lucky if you can get a job at J.C. Penney's taking pictures of babies. This is a hard business to get into. And so we took it to heart. We realized, okay, it is what it is. We're just going to have fun, the artsy stuff. And so, I moved on. I went into construction, and later, that's what got me into Brookhaven Lab. And eventually, I was working at Brookhaven Lab, and I actually bought my first digital still camera. I bought a Nikon, which would be like, so low tech compared to today's stuff. But I messed around with it. I did a couple of shoots and stuff, and believe it or not, I got published a couple of times. And then my family was always into the media. I'm talking my uncles and stuff, New York Times and stuff. So I reached out, and I got a couple of gigs of the New York Times. They were paying good money back then. It was like $300 a gig. So sometimes they give you 2 in a day. That's $600. Like, holy shit, And you didn't see the money for a long time, but and I just go out and shooting geese for a story or whatever the hell they needed. And so I kind of enjoyed this. I was actually kind of paying for my hobby and paying for my stuff. And little by little, I got more and more into it. I started chasing news. And you got to remember, I still had my full-time job. And then I started working more for the New York Daily News. Mike LePeck was my boss at the time. And he was a crazy guy. Everyone says the crazy guy in Superman, the crazy boss was based off Mike. I mean, Mike was like, you're erratic. I mean, fire you, call you back, get your ass out there. What are you doing? I mean, really, it was just, and he would admit to it. And, but anyway, so when he's calling me all the time, I'm working. I got a real job. And I was like, Mike, you got to stop calling me. Like, they understand what's going on. I can't be running off, calling in sick to do these jobs. And it got to the point where even though I had almost 20 years at Brookhaven Lab, I guess it was 18, whatever, some years at that point, Mike said, well, you're on a job, kid, you got it. So basically, they kept me going full time. Is how could I say no to doing my dream job? Be a photojournalist in New York Daily News. So that's how it started.
A job like that.
Yeah. I mean, so, I started doing that. And then at that time, they had a presence on Long Island. They had offices, Nassau, Suffolk County. So I was one photographer. And I was good. I was kind of aggressive. I could do stuff. And I had connections. And little by little, they kept the business was dying. It cut back. So it got to the point where I was the only guy in Suffolk County. Then eventually, I was the only guy doing Nassau and Suffolk County. Then video came in. I'm computer literate, so I was able to do video and edit and stuff. And then eventually, they said, "Listen, we don't have any reporters available. We have to take them out of Queens. You're already interviewing people on the camera. Can you just do that?" So we don't really need anybody. They're just stealing my quotes and everything anyway. So it got to the point where I was doing everything. I was a one-man band. My car had 2 laptop desks in it. That was my office. But I got to be honest with you, I loved it. My wife, my kids are helping me. I call up and say, do some searching on this. I got to find this and that. And I was, like I said, I didn't burn my bridges. And then, I got to the point where, the New York New York Post actually had, they didn't even do video, but I'd be working stories. They had 2 reporters and 2 photographers out there, and I still kicked their ass. I mean, it was like I get connections, and it was great. I'm going like, this is good. One time I know, guys, I'm talking to one. This is what I do. I'm in Manhattan for a Christmas party, and one of the guys comes. I'm up at the bar where I belong, and one of the guys comes up. I was just telling the boss how you're into the paranormal. I go, why the hell would you tell her that? I don't need that. It's like Gretchen was my boss at the time. It's after Mike's gone, and she was English, and then she goes, I didn't know you were into this. I said, why would I tell you? And she was telling me about her paranormal experiences and stuff. We get talking and stuff. And she goes, why don't we do something with this? I said, you got to be kidding me. You got to pay me to go out and do paranormal, stories and stuff. And then basically about a month later, we got together in Manhattan and we sat down. We figured out a budget and stuff. And that's what I did the first little, story stills and a video that would be featured on their site. And it was Speaking to Ghosts in Smithville, New Jersey. And it was #1 on their website for, I think it was 3 or 4 days straight. Thank God it was a slow news week. But they came back to me and said, what else do you have? And then I pitched Whitehall, New York, a Bigfoot sighting. And little by little, I thought, this is going to be great for me. This is really getting a lot of activity. And I can get out of doing, the courts and the stakeouts, all the stuff I hated doing. And but then new management came in, same owner, new management. It came down. And all my bosses got fired. It took about a year for them to get to me. I never got canned. I got cut way back. And that was when I was looking to escape New York. And that's how I found Littleton.
Right. But you went to a place Littleton, which is an epicenter for Bigfoot sightings, isn't it?
Who knew? I mean,
Who knew? Exactly. I
I
didn't
had
know
no clue.
whenever I visited the town. I had no idea. But there's a place there called what, Medoc? Is that what? How do you pronounce
Medoc
it?
Mountain State Park. The road is in front of the museum here. Is the road is back behind the house. I don't know if you remember it, and that's where Tiffany Merrill had her sighting. One of the original ones I interviewed, for me anyway. And we've had 4 sightings there across the street. One of the ones that's got a lot of publicity was Jesse Walker, a retired school teacher. He was 73, 75 now. Matter of fact, he's going to be at the event. I'm going to have him sitting there signing glossy photos of himself and talking about his experience.
Nice.
But I mean, this is a guy who was horrified, cried through the interview. I mean, came into my house. I was closed because of COVID. He came to me because of what he did. I was the commissioner at the time. And we interviewed him, and he literally talked, explained what happened, cried through it. And this is a guy that's a retired school teacher involved in all the churches. I mean, everyone in town knows him. He's not a guy that's going to make this up. He's not a Bigfooter. And that's what if you look at my YouTube channel, you'll see I've had so many interviews. That's kind of what I've done. And it was people who just, I've convinced them to talk on camera. And that's not easy. And it's getting actually a little harder now. But we have tons of people coming, deputy sheriffs and other people have come in, have sightings. I mean, it's amazing. The sightings have been here for well over 100 years, going back to the Halawasa Pony tribe. And Ron, you met Minnie Silver telling her stories at the event. I mean, it's crazy. And I had no idea. I mean, when I've heard about Bigfoot sightings in North Carolina, you got to remember, I didn't come here for this. I'm just looking to, semi-retire. And it's usually up in Cherokee, up in the mountains and stuff. I come down here. Turns out we're the hotbed. The most recent sighting has been reported to me is, I think, 16 days old. And it's a woman that came into town, and she's very skittish about me giving any chance of someone figuring out who she is. But she's not from the area. She came into town to go to Medoc Mountain State Park because of the geology. It's a collapsed volcano from many years ago. And we have gold mining there, and there's very unique rocks and quartz and stuff. And she was literally driving in to get to the road where you drive in, and she saw something out of the corner of her eye, thought it was in a tree, and it threw a log at her, damaged her car. She turned around, the thing was gone, picked up the log, which is a piece of firewood, which we have in the museum. She actually brought it to us, went to the ranger station and reported it because she needed an accident report for her insurance. I mean, did
the insurance pay for it?
I don't know if it's that new. I don't know if she's even got the accident.
That would be great to have an insurance claim for a Bigfoot.
She's upset with me. I deal with a lot of local media loves me, and one of the guys I deal with a lot is this country station. It's I'm going to get it wrong, 97 points, whatever. It's the Hamptons Road country station down by Virginia Beach. And this guy Jason calls me all the time. So as soon as he heard about it, he goes, "Can you be on the air tomorrow?" And so I talked about it, and she's from that neighborhood, and I'm trying to be vague, and she freaked out. She goes, "Oh my God, I can't!" She's like, "You came to me. I didn't come to you." It's like, But anyways, that's when you're dealing with Bigfoot, and you're not like one of us who's into this. And that was the problem in this small town. The sightings were here. Nobody talked about it, and the few people that did come out were sorry they did.
Right. Well, I guess if they're going to be hesitant putting anything in more than a Piggly Wiggly, an upright hominid of some kind is not going to be top of the list either.
Yep.
Yeah. I do have a question. We do have a question, an actual honest to goodness question here from the Dead Air Full Spectrum. If I could take a moment to read it to you, Stephen, because we are now going to tap into your expertise in the field of Bigfoot research. And that is simply this. Do you believe there are various races of primate, Bigfoot, swamp, the skunk ape, the grassman, etc.? And is there a geographical evolution happening within these groups? What is your feeling about that?
My belief is I have a group of guys that work with me. It's kind of amazing how this is kind of became something. George works with me a lot. I don't think you met George. I don't think he was around when you were here. George is a retired cop out of Delaware. Actually, he's an official. He was, in charge of the IT department, state police. He came down here in the middle of COVID. I was officially closed. I let him into the museum. I gave him a map, and he bought some stuff. Next thing he knows, he sends me some photos of these prints he found at Meat House. He goes, "These good?" I said, "Holy shit! Did you cast them?" He goes, "No." And showed me a snake. It was a copperhead, so it was a good move. I ran down. It was raining. And actually, his story ended up running on coast to coast, and it was crazy. And but basically, he's had some experience where George now kind of like almost thinks it might be interdimensional. I don't lean that way. I believe flesh and blood. I kind of lean back to maybe it's the old school way of thinking. Giant Dipithecus coming through. A land ape. I mean, we've had. I think I've told you this. You met Minnie Silver once again. Her son had sightings of a Bigfoot when he was like 14, with dark blue eyes. I mean, so it's crazy, crazy stuff going on here. And as far as different things, I agree. I think different areas. My first documentary I ever did on Bigfoot was Whitehall, New York. It was Paul Bartholomew. It was for the New York Daily News, and they were large creatures. They felt they migrated. We don't think these migrate here, and they move around, but they don't. We seem to get the same prints season after season, and up there they're kind of reddish browns. Everything here is pretty much jet black, long shaggy hair, jet black, and on the large size, they're well into the 10-foot range. Matter of fact, I think I sent you a thermal image I got 2 years ago. And I watched this thing walk through the woods. I was in there, and we had multiple witnesses. And this thing was easy 8.5 feet tall. It was huge. I mean, the girth on it with the bent legs. And I could hear it with a parabolic dish. At the time, I was using the flare scopes before we got into the AGMs, which if you're going to buy a thermal, go AGM, trust me. And I don't make any money off it. Just trust me. They do equipment. And I wish I had that. I mean, I would have saw everything. This thing obviously had no clothes on. I mean, the thermal cameras, you can see clothes clearly. As a commissioner and the mayor, the police in town used to borrow my thermal scopes all the time to find, they lose a crackhead in the woods or something. I mean, they work daytime and night. We're stepping up the game. We're getting more and more equipment in. And I mean, you got to remember, I didn't come down here for this. I mean, I always had an interest in this. 90% of what I did was regular news, crime. Celebrity was great for me because I had secondary sales. I mean, I enjoyed this. I was into the paranormal. I'm from Long Island, New York. We don't have any Bigfoot sightings on Long Island. We're excited to see squirrels. I mean,
yeah, the Amityville to work with there. So,
I mean, so I don't know if I answered the question properly, but
So what's the landscape like, where all these sightings are happening? Do you have like a huge forested area, something going up into the mountains? Is there like an extensive, wildlife preserve? What kind of an area are these sightings taking place in?
Well, the whole area here is little tiny towns. These towns are, even when they were booming back in the day, before I-95 and I-85 came through and killed these little towns, even back then they maybe had 1,200 people. Some of these towns. I mean, other towns are like, we're under 650 now. We're probably I think we're 640 or 630 or something. I can find out in town hall. And but it's these towns died because of that. But they were never huge. And the business down here primarily is logging and farming, but mostly logging. So if you do a Google Earth and come up, you can see it's like little tiny town. Like I drove Ken Gearhart in from RDU when he came in last Paracon we had. I purposely took him up through the back road instead of taking I-85 up or something like that. And he's going like, oh my God. And you can see like there's nothing but woods. It's nothing but woods. A few little towns here and there. I mean, and the hunters here don't go into the woods. And I run a dog rescue too. I do all kinds of stuff. I'm an idiot. I'm my own problem. And but basically they use hounds here. So basically the hounds will be trained to chase deer. A few of them have electronic collars on, and they basically go out in the woods and they chase the deer. And they basically have these radio antennas. And when the deer come running across the road, they shoot them, which I think is not really hunting, but it's neither here or there. And so the hunters don't really go in the woods. Very few of them do. So we got tons of forest, tons of untouched areas here. And these sightings go back, like I said, to the Halawasa Pony tribe and stuff, well over 100 years. And now that I've been doing this, I mean, it's not unusual. At least once a month, if not sometimes multiple times a month, someone comes in with their story. And one of the stories I'll get fairly common is, I'm going to tell you something. I've been married for 36 years. I've never told my wife. This happened to me and my buddy back when we were fishing or hunting, whatever it was. And they'll tell me, this is why I never hunt again. And they see these things out there. They move in family pods. They're large. Even Ron probably remembers Minnie Silver telling stories about people going missing, children being snatched. I mean, one of the craziest stories she told me is, this is before her time, but they're talking about there was like a group of smaller ones around, and they seemed to have a better disposition, but they were like kind of like midget Bigfoot. And one gets into a house. This is back when they had a lot of sharecropping here, which I never realized the moving here is just another type of kind of slavery. You work for the boss man and you got stuck doing whatever. And one of these things gets into a house and they can't get it out. So the community comes together. And she says they burned it down, but they basically, what I'm hearing from people, they smoked it. They basically started a fire, created smoke. They had the front door open, and everyone's outside with sticks and clubs. When this thing comes running out, they beat it to death. And she's telling me as we're driving around, she's showing me things and introduced me to people and going like, oh my God, where is this thing buried? I said, I'm a town commissioner. Maybe we can exhume the body. We got to find out what's going on. But they have no idea. But it's story after story after story here.
Well, around what time? When was that? Was that like in the 30s or the 40s, or
that would have gone back? Now it probably. She told me that. She said it was 80 some years back. I expect we did the last thing, so it's got to be 85, 90 years ago.
Okay, all right.
But they've actually brought me to some. Again, we still have homes out here, cabins that have dirt floors. I mean, some of these people are still living in those conditions. I mean, it's just I was amazed coming down here. We have churches not too far from here. Actually, one of the guys that helps me out in the museum is involved in the church, and they are into this dancing with rattlesnakes. I mean, it's just it's a different world. I mean, it really is. I mean, he's not pro that. I mean, he's a very religious man, and he's a Bigfooter. I mean, big time Bigfooter. And but I mean, it's like when I came down here, leaving Long Island, New York, it was like it was a major change. It really was. And don't get me wrong, I love it here. I love it. And but I mean, this is why the stories are not being told. These are not communities that go out and talk to the media. And I'm so lucky that I've got to the point of all people, the crazy Yankee, they're coming and talking to me and they trust me. And I guess I just have that ability to, talk to them. And, you don't want your name out there. You don't want this. It's fine,
One of our regulars, Mary Beth, was just pointing out that people have talked about DNA samples taken from hair, and that they came back closer to human. Any experience with that, or ideas on sort of what exactly? I mean, we talk a lot about Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and all these different sort of variations on the creature, but any theories or particular opinions on exactly what these animals are? I know you said you don't sort of cotton with the extraterrestrial or the interdimensional thing, which I'm on board with that. It sounds like if they exist, that they would be a natural phenomena. But any ideas what you think they may actually be?
I tend to lean to flesh and blood. I'm open. I mean, I run a cryptozoology museum, for God's sakes. I mean, we do everything. But personally, I mean, I've gotten thermal images. I've seen stuff. I've had rocks thrown at me. These things are out there. I've had so many people talk to me, unfortunately, it's just only a small batch I've been able to get on camera. And I honestly think these things are flesh and blood. And we've gotten hair brought to us. Unfortunately, most of the hair, and I think Ron saw that too. I think it's a hair extension. I mean, I would never even pay to have it. It doesn't look right. I have one good hair. It was brought to me. And unfortunately, it's not even from here. It's from Florida, and that's a skunk ape hair. That I would have tested. But we go out looking. I mean, we've had terrible luck with game cameras. Thermal cameras are great. We're trying to buy a thermal drone. It's just
right.
The bucks. It's just we just don't have the money right now coming out of COVID. I'm having a hard enough time putting this event together. Things are rough. I'm supporting the museum personally right at this point. We're getting there. Things are coming back, but it's just it's just so much going on here, and just to try to keep things going. I'm really lucky that I have a really good crew of guys, a lot of good retirees. Like I said, mostly they're cops. They're into the body cams. That's what they used to. And I'm going that way. I'm giving up with the GoPros. I think the body cams are a much better way to go. And but
I've had terrible luck with GoPros myself.
I hate them. And I've got a bunch of them. I mean, the noise quality, overheating. These guys get the body cam. They put them on, turn them on, no problem. It's like, yeah. And look at the quality of stuff they get. And the audio on some of these body cams is just amazing. It's just,
Now, one thing I hear people saying from time to time, and it's not super common, but I do hear it periodically, is people kind of overlap or sort of mix in Sasquatch and Bigfoot stories with the dogmen legends and, werewolf folklore and things like that. Do you ever get any reports, that kind of thing, or anything that kind of crosses the line where it's not necessarily simian or ape-like, but something more dog-like, more wolf-like?
We get that time and time again. It's kind of funny you say that. When I first came down here, and people started realizing I was into this, and it's like I said, it's an older community. Some of the people came. A couple of women actually came to me and said that they saw wolfmen, and they were telling me I saw this thing in my backyard. I went through the yard, and I started talking to them. So wolfman, it's like I'm being skeptical, and when you talk to them and when they start explaining it, it sounds like a Bigfoot. I think They just don't think Bigfoot. They were going to the Lon Chaney movies they grew up with because it's older. They just, they're not thinking that way. And I think now that that's part of the good thing and bad thing about having a museum now that's been published all over the place, which is, it's really good for the town. But now I think everything. I mean, someone even sees a bear in the woods. It's, and bears stand up. I mean, bears can walk for short periods. They do a toddler walk, and. So we try to vet everybody as we go through. I was in Crypticon. Crypticon's a great place to go if you guys ever, besides our festival, of course. And I try to get there every year. And this last year, we're all hanging out the last day, and that's the day to hang around with all the guys, the museums and everything. And we're talking about it and saying, all we've got is our word. I mean, there's only a handful of people out there that are known to be fakers and somehow still get on Travel Channel and Survivor Man and stuff like that. But the rest of us, that's why the guys that work with me, we throw away evidence that most people would pee themselves for. I mean, we're very concerned. We try to make sure it's good. I mean, and I do that not just with cryptozoology, but with paranormal and everything else. And which makes it harder for us because, I can't just throw up dust orbs and stuff like that. We just won't do it. I mean, I'm not even a tree structure guy. I go out there, like even today, I was out with my niece filming. If you see the latest video I just posted, and we went through, it was like X after X after X in the woods. Like I said, that's really unusual. I filmed it. I said, but I have to walk away from it. To me, that's just, for me, I'm uncomfortable with it. I'm not saying someone else does it and saying you're wrong with it.
Right. Well, as we're running out of time here, as we've got about 15 more minutes to go, let's walk through the museum a little bit. Can you give us a kind of virtual tour? If I, Joe Public, enter your museum, what am I going to be witnessing in there?
Well, as you first walk in, I try to keep the cryptozoology, the Bigfoot stuff. My big statues in there.
I know.
And so basically, I try to keep them out. We are in the Bible Belt. So some people do not like the paranormal. I keep that. Now, right now, we're only using about half the museum for the public. I'm still working on the back room, but it's going to be huge. And we're going to have an area back there for people like, you guys to come in and do your book signings and the whole bit here. It's a decent-sized museum. Like I said, it's 3,700 square feet. We're still working on the murals. I just had some more paint done. I mean, it's just timing's everything, and but we're getting there. I want to have a much bigger UFO section, which I have like almost nothing at the moment, but we're working on that. It's just we have a lot to do, but we have we have TVs up, we have videos up. I try to make sure I'm there most of the time. I can tell, as you can see, I'm a talker. I can tell story after story after story. And I can literally open the front door and point across the street and go, that's Jesse Walker's house. That's the guy that had the sighting, 2 years, 4 months ago.
And a small town.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, this is not what I came down here for. My plan was to semi-retire. A lot of guys in my business do like table books or something like that, or get into doing maybe wedding photography or whatever your genre is. My plan was I wanted to travel. I wanted to see America. I wanted to go see Route 66, do photos, do a travel videos, stuff. A few dollars, like pay for my trip and let me just travel and stuff. I come down here, end up with a haunted house, start taking advantage of that. Get Bigfoot sightings come in, get sucker and running for office. It's like I created the same nightmare I had when I worked for the New York Daily News 7 days a week, except there I was handsomely paid for it. Here I was making shit. It's like I pain out of my own pocket. But I love it though. And Ron will tell you that.
I can't. And I'll tell you what, a couple of our listeners, Mary Beth said that looks awesome, and Sandy Andrews says looks like a beautiful setup, which it is. Which is one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on the show tonight, because in just a few short months, right? We're less than a month away, right? No, less than 2 months away, if I'm not mistaken, right?
April.
You're going to have your Paracon down there, where people can actually visit Littleton and visit your museum. So tell us a little bit, because I know the theater has been revamped and everything. Just tell us a little bit about the event itself and where to get the tickets.
Yeah, the tickets just went on sale today. This is how far behind we are. I mean, trying to get everything going. And we're really lucky. When I first started doing the museum stuff, and because we are researchers, we go out there and we do stuff, and we did a tie-in. We actually were partners now with MetaZoo. And for those of you guys who don't know what MetaZoo is, it's a trading card game. And I've never been in trading card games. But Mike Waddell, the creator, reached out to me about 1.5 years ago. And he came out in the middle of COVID. And it's basically based on cryptozoology. I mean, I don't know if you can see this here, the reflection. That's Mothman. This is Bigfoot. I'm going to do it wrong here. Anyway, this stuff's like super collectible. And anyway, stuff came out in the beginning. He did a Kickstarter, and I got an email saying, "Are you interested in the Kickstarter?" I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I'm like dead in the water. My museum is shut. And anyway, he sent me a ton of stuff anyway. And so I made some phone calls. I mean, literally get this box in the mail and going, how drunk was I on Amazon? What the fuck did I order? And I'm not even into this. And so anyway, it turns out these boxes, the Kickstarter boxes, which are boxes I should have had one down about yay big. They were selling, I think, like $60, $70 in the Kickstarter. Well, at that point, they're selling for like $500, $600, $700. They went up to $12,000 at one point. So he came back down. Now they're still selling for like, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. It depends on if they're signed and stuff like that. It's only $2,500 he's done. But it was like, you never know where life's going to take you. So I get involved with this. They're coming to the event. Mike's hoping Mike comes as well. But this is a big deal. I mean, you never know where life's going to take you. But that's part of it. So they'll be there. So we actually have a large. They did $55 million their first year.
Holy cow!
I mean, they came out in the middle of COVID and stuff. I mean, just I can't. Enough advertising for MetaZoo. But they've been really good to us. They've really been very helpful to us. That's how we got into the new building and all that other stuff.
Now, what's the official name of that Paracon? What's the name of the Paracon?
Right now, we're calling it. If you can see that, I'm going to get it all wrong here. And the reason I'm not doing CryptoCon is I've had issues. So we're basically calling it the Paranormal Bigfoot Festival. Now, we're down here. People don't know what Paracons and stuff are. And every time I use the word, even though our museum's Cryptozoology Paranormal Museum.
People think it's Bitcoins.
Exactly. Yeah. I get shut down on so much stuff on social media. I mean, I'm trying to do all these different things. And it's just like, you're in review. You're in review. And it's like,
Now, if people go to your website for the museum, can they get information about the con there?
Yes, everything's up, and I've sent it to you guys too if you want to repost it. And it's all on. My daughter just did it today. So hang on a second. Eventbrite. So you just look us up on Eventbrite. It's all set up there.
Very good.
It's $25 a ticket, and we're gonna have I'm gonna have all kinds of stuff. We're gonna do raffles, all kinds of stuff. The new Lakeland Theater actually has a bar. They have food. I mean, it's gorgeous. It's amazing. Ron, you're going to be blown away. It's going to be incredible.
Well, I'll tell you what, I was blown away the first time. As you said, the town has, you said about 600 and some people, correct?
Yep.
I will tell you this. So I go into this little town, and I didn't know what to expect because it's smaller than my hometown wherever I grew up. And I will tell you, from the time the doors opened until the time that they closed, the place was packed. I don't know where everybody came from. It was, and also these people came because they were extremely interested in the paranormal. It wasn't like this was kind of like a, what are we going to do for the weekend? This was like an arranged type of thing in these people's schedules. They wanted to be here. They were very inquisitive. They asked a lot of questions. But to let you know a little bit more about how this is on the map of the paranormal I get a call a few months after doing the Paracon, and it was from the Travel Channel, and they said, we saw you. We'd like to offer you a spot on our show, True Terror with Robert England. And I said, where did you see me? And they said, we saw you at Littleton, North Carolina. So so it's definitely on the map. People
Right.
from the Travel Channel go there. People are going there just as if they were scouting out things. So I will tell you, whenever this event happens, this is definitely the place to be. No questions asked.
So
We've been very lucky. We've gotten really good. I think part of that's me knowing as a journalist kind of what people are looking for. I mean, we just had PBS come in just before we came to this building, and I hate to talk about stuff. Like I'm not going to do it. That's jinx. I'll jinx myself. We're in talks with some other stuff now too. So
Yes,
now,
yes,
before
yes.
we run down the clock here, because we've got about 8 minutes left. So we've talked quite a bit about Bigfoot sightings and things down there, and about the museum itself. But of course, you
right.
also have exhibits on UFOs and on ghosts and things like that. We talked a little bit about the fact that your house has some activity. What's the UFO situation like down there? Do you get a lot of sightings, or I think rural areas I feel like always tend to, but what's the how much exposure do you and your town and your in general do you have to UFO sightings?
Yeah, I'm a UFO nut. I love that stuff. I always have, and I've seen very little myself. To be honest with you, so I'm still chasing it. I was just down on the Outer Banks. I guess it was not this weekend, last weekend, 2 weeks ago. I was there the day after they shot down the balloon in South Carolina, and I stayed at the Ramada on the 5th floor. And I actually gave my card. So I'm bringing telescopes in and thermal cameras. And they go like, "Who's this wacko trying to check out people on the beach?" And they go, "Do you do paranormal? We have the ballroom on the 2nd floor. It's got all kinds of crazy stuff." Anyway, I was there for 2 days. I got shit. I didn't get anything. But anyway, by the time I got back is when they shot down those 3 items. Those 3 things with the president and Schumer came out saying they're balloons. 2 generals came out saying they're not balloons. So I was loving it. I did a video, get over 8,000 views on that. But I love it. But we have sightings in the area. They're mostly above me at the lake. And so what we want to do with the new building now, I want to try to, as we do in the roof, I want to have some cameras. We have very, like, no light pollution here. It's amazing. I'm from Long Island, so I'm used to, like, you can't see nothing. Here, I mean, it's amazing. You walk out at night and you just see everything. It's just beautiful here. So we're going to get some cameras set up on here so we can see. One of the issues, like for my personal house, is the trees here are just, I mean, it's old growth. They're 90, 100 some feet tall. So, I mean, you can see the museum in that shot. We're lucky to be on North Main Street, and there's nothing in front of us. The old railroad was. So here we can actually get a pretty good view and see what we can see. But there are sightings here. Like I said, most of them come up from the lake. Most of the stuff I get personally is from the shore. And that's why we try to run down there. And the 2 times I've gone down, I've gotten skunked. I haven't gotten anything personally. But we're going to keep on.
I think genuine sightings are a lot less frequent than
Yep.
your average YouTube video would convince people of. I feel like if they were quite as common as you might think on social media, we'd have a lot more proof than we do at this point. So,
yeah. And like I said, we're 100%. We're up front. I mean, a lot of my videos, you go on my YouTube channel, I have a ton of videos up. And a lot of times, like even my niece today, we talked about the paranormal investigation we did here last night, which we got some really good stuff. There's a murder took place in this building when it was a honky tonk and stuff. This place has a lot of crazy history. It was a church for a while, and a laundromat and a car dealership and all this other stuff. But I took her for a hike at Medoc because she's athletic kid, wanted to go out there and listen to the old man huff and puff behind her. But we shot video and we got nothing great there. We had some weird sounds and stuff. But the bottom line is you got to do your due diligence. If you're not out there, if you don't put your time in, you're never going to see anything.
right.
90% of the time, I would say, is pretty safe. You're not going to get anything unless you're one of these people like every little thing is a Bigfoot, every little thing is a ghost. And there's a lot. You watch these shows. I mean, and they need to keep people watching, so they kind of invent stuff.
Yeah, we see a lot of that in the general paranormal community. Is that there's not much time taken to debunk or sort of rationally explain
Right.
away anything. So everything you see is paranormal, is supernatural, is extraterrestrial. And unfortunately, I feel like that muddies the water a lot, because then when you do have real evidence, it's hard to just differentiate it from all of the bunk that's out there.
I had a family call me today. Said, "I understand you're doing the ghost tours again at the museum now." And he goes, "I want to bring my kids." I said, "How old are they?" And he told me like one's 10 and this. I said, they'll be bored to tears. This is not a haunted house. There's not props. There's not like smoke. And I said they're going to get a K2 meter. We're going to set up laser grid. We're going to set up stuff. And I can't guarantee anything's going to happen. I said they're going to be just bored to tears. I said, come to the museum. Just pay the $5 admission, $2 for the kids. Walk around, take pictures with Bigfoot, look at all the videos and stuff. And if you get something, if you want, I'll hand you K2 meter. You can walk around with that. And but I try to explain we're not geared. When I was actually talking to one of the guys that works with me, I said maybe we'll set up like a kids thing that is like no more than an hour long. I mean, I'm not saying all kids are like that. Some kids are probably fine with this. I mean, I've had a couple of young kids come in that were like amazing ghost hunters and stuff. But for the most part, we try to explain to people what we do is legit. It's not we're entertainment too, but the investigations we do are 100%.
Yeah, anytime you're dealing with the general public, you're going to get a percentage of people who only want the experience. They only want the spooky stuff. They want the light shows and the flashing, and it's tough to satisfy all those folks.
Exactly, and it's like you give them a K2 meter, it's not doing anything. You've been here for 4 minutes. It's like, you could spend a week ghost hunting and get nothing. I mean, it's just the way it is.
Full torso, free roaming apparition. That's what they want.
Exactly.
So. Well, Stephen, thank you so much for coming on with us tonight and talking about all this stuff. It sounds like it's pretty hopping down there. Eventually, I'm going to have to get down to Littleton and check it out, because I would love to. And it's my kind of area, too. It looks like a beautiful town, and I love good small Americana towns. I'm going to throw your information up on the screen one more time. Folks out there, if you are interested in at any time visiting the museum, getting some more information on what Stephen does and about the museum, or looking into the upcoming paranormal conference, which you said is in April, if I'm not mistaken.
April 15th.
April 15th at crypto-para.org. And as always, everybody, want to thank you so much for coming out and joining us tonight. And and of course, if you enjoyed our evening show or any of our shows, please give us a thumbs up, give us a like and a subscription here. We've got tons of great content here on the Dead Air Full Spectrum Network of fantastic shows like Extremely Strange. We have Paranormal Panoramic. So many fantastic shows, and hopefully you will check out all of those. We will see you folks all next week on the next episode of Monday Night Mysteries, Myths, and Monsters. And once again, Stephen, thank you so much, and hopefully we will see you again in the future when we've got some new news to share. So guys,
sounds great, guys.
Thank you so
much, and I'm honored to be on your second show.
Always glad to have you. So thanks so much, guys. Have a wonderful night.
Ron, I'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Take care, guys.